friends, it's Lisa from Epic Yarn Gem. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make my little boy blue basic bobble blanket. Now say that 10 times fast. The yarn I decided to use was the Bernat Softee Baby. The color of it was the baby denim marl. I did use my 6.5 millimeter hook. I believe that's a K size because I wanted it to have a little bit more of a drape. And also, do you see these instructions on the back of here on how to start the ball of yarn? Let me tell you, I tried this and it did not work for me, but I can never find that first starting string and I have like a yarn bar come out of it when I start. So let's get started. And just so you know, I did not use the same brand of yarn. This first start of this video is with 2 strands of yarn. And the first thing you're going to do is you're going to do a slip knot. And then from there, you are going to do chains in multiples of 3. For the blanket that I made, it was 35.5 inches long and 27 inches wide. And I started my project with 102 chains. So I know you're probably going, this yarn does not look like the yarn I just showed you. You are absolutely correct. What I wanted was I wanted a blue and white combination. I had not found the Bernat yarn yet. And when I started making this with the 2 strands, it became really thick. And this blanket is actually for a summer baby. So I switched how I was doing this, but it's the same pattern. It's just you don't use the double strands of yarn unless you want to make a thicker blanket. So also I have another alternate option here. If you want to start, you can do a second chain from the hook and do a row of single crochets, and then at the end do a chain 2. The reason that I'm giving you this alternate option is because when I did my border, I there was a piece that I didn't like when I had done it, and this is a picture of it. It made some really big gaps when I did the border around the bottom of my starting foundation chain. So my thought was if I would have started with a row of single crochets, this might not have been as large of a gap and it would have been easier to do the border. So totally up to you. So what I did is I went into the third chain from the hook and I did a double crochet. After I did that double crochet, I put a single crochet into that exact same chain that I just did that double crochet. And I used a stitch marker. You don't have to do that, but sometimes when I'm doing some chains, it's sometimes hard to find exactly where that chain is when you finish a row. So I did put a stitch marker in there. So there we go, doing that single crochet. And then what we're going to do is we're going to skip 2 chains. So there's 1, 2, and we're going to go into the next and we're going to do a single crochet, a double crochet, and then another single crochet in that exact same chain. And then after you finish that, you're going to skip 2 more chains and do that again. And that is single crochet, double crochet, single crochet, all in the same stitch. And you're going to repeat that all the way across until you get to 1 stitch from the end. One other thing about this as you're going, this is just a little variation on like a bobble stitch. I really liked how small these little bobbles were, especially for a baby blanket. So this is just a little teeny tiny. It's not the true bobble that you might see, but it made little bobbles or bubbles if you want to call it that. And as we are approaching the end of the row, what we're going to do when we have 1 chain left, so we did our skip 2 and there's that 1 chain left, and we're going to put a single crochet in there. And now for row 2, what you're going to do is a chain 2 and turn. And in that same stitch that you did the chain 2, so right at the bottom, that base right there, you are going to go double crochet, single crochet in the same stitch. And then we're going to skip 2 stitches. And those 2 stitches are the top of that little bobble. And if you see, there's 1 and there's 2. And then the space we're going to go into, it is a little bit open, so you'll be able to find it pretty easily. So in there, what you're going to do is our pattern of single crochet, double crochet, single crochet. And you are going to do that all the way across the row. So there's one, there's two, and there's that open space. So you're going to do that all the way across. And that is truly the entire blanket. So for the measurement that I gave you earlier, what I did was 100 rows of this stitch. And by doing that, I did make the width of it was 27 inches long. So if you want to make it bigger or smaller, you're just going to increase or decrease the number of rows that you do. And just like in that first row, when you get to that very last chain or that very last stitch after you did the skip 2, you're going to put one single crochet in there. So there you go. That is the entire blanket. And once you get on a roll, it goes pretty quickly. It isn't too much of a yarn hog, to be really honest. I did really enjoy doing this blanket. And the yarn, I did like it, didn't split too much. So I'm going to probably do a little review on this yarn later on, just in case you want a little more information on it. To be really honest, this blanket did not look bad without a border, but I decided that I did want to add a border just to give it a little bit more of a finished look. Also, here's a picture. It is not totally squared off. I'm going to have to do some blocking, but this is what it looks like with the border. You can pick any border you want. This is just the one that I decided to do. So after you finished your last row, you're going to do a chain 1, and then you're going to turn your work and go back in the direction that you started, or in the direction that you just came from. And you are going to do a single crochet in that first stitch, the one that had the chain, and you're going to do single crochets all the way across that row. And then when you get to the end of the row, when there's one stitch left, I'll show you what you need to do. And here we are at the end of the row with one stitch left, and then you are going to put 3 single crochets into this stitch, and that is going to make a nice little corner for you so that it's not so squared off and it does flow really nicely. After you finish that, you're going to do a little half turn of your work and go down the other side of the blanket. And what you're going to do is you're going to go into the end of each row. So in that first stitch, you can see, there is a little bit of space here, and you're going to go into those spaces all the way down, doing the best you can to keep it nice and even. So you will do that all the way to the end of the row, and then when you get to the end of the row, what you're going to do is you're going to do the same thing we just did with the 3 single crochets in that very last stitch. And then you are going to do that all the way around with that half turn until you get to the beginning of where you started. And then when you get to the beginning, you are just going to do a slip stitch join there, and you are going to do another row. And what I did was I did 5 rows of the single crochet just to give it a finished off look. So at the beginning of the video, I gave you an alternate option to do when you started this. So right now what I'm doing here is I'm at the foundation row. And as I was looking at this foundation row, there was a lot of space in here, and this is what made those bigger gaps at the bottom. And I'm thinking part of that is because I went right into this bobbly stitch. So that's why I added, if you wanted to do a row of single crochets before you started the bobbly stitch, that might work better and it might get rid of some of those spaces. But that is really the option that you have, and I just wanted to show you that it does create a little bit of a gap. So I'll leave that to you if you want to add that single crochet row. I think next time I make this blanket, I definitely will include that single crochet row, but totally up to you. So like I said, you're just going to keep going around with those single crochets, and you're going to do 5 rows of that. You could do more than 5 or less than 5 depending on how thick you want your border. And it does make a nice straight line when you do single crochets. So here you are at the end of your 5 rows. You're going to do that slip stitch join that I was telling you about. And for this now, you're going to do a chain 1. This chain 1 is the start of this next section that you're going to do. You're not going to go like you would normally go down the left. You're going to go down the right. You're going to go to the right and do your work. So what this is it's the crab stitch or the reverse single crochet. So what you do is you are going to go into the stitch to the right. You're going to pick up your yarn. Well, maybe you're going to pick up your yarn. And then you're going to do a little twist when you bring it through. And then you're going to finish just like you would with a normal single crochet. So let's look at that again. We're going to go to the next stitch to the right, yarn over, pick up a loop, twist it a little bit when you bring the hook through, and then you're just going to finish it off with a single crochet. I will put a link on how to do the reverse single crochet or the crab stitch in the upper right hand corner, so that if you want to see it in a little more detail, you can click on that link. But like I said, I wanted a little simplicity to this blanket, and I just thought that this crab stitch did a really nice job of finishing off the entire blanket. So you can see it's kind of making like a little barrel, I guess if you want to call it that, at the top. So it's just a really cute way to finish off this blanket. I want to apologize a little bit for my nails. They do have paint on them from time to time because during this time of self-quarantine, doing a little house cleaning and housekeeping to update, some of the paint in our house. So that is the reason for the non-nail polish, but actual paint on my nails. Thank you all for joining me today. I really appreciate you stopping by. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comments below. And if you would, please give the video a thumbs up, share it out, and if you're new to Epic Yarn Gems, welcome. If you are a current subscriber, thank you for joining me again. And as always, peace, love, and happiness to you all.